talking about educating students with dyslexia. Imagine being a fifth grader and the teacher assigns a class a reading assignment. As every student pulls out their book and begins to read, a little fifth grader looks puzzled. When the student looks at the page with words written on it, all the person can see is a jumble of words and phrases. Embarrassed, the student sits there quietly and pretends to participate in the class. Suddenly, that student has lost the ability to learn as well as they could have in that class because the student was dyslexic. It's not a sign of low intelligence or laziness. It's also not due to poor vision. It's a common condition that affects the way the brain processes written and spoken language. Dyslexia is primarily associated with trouble reading. Some doctors, specialists, and educators may refer to it as reading disorder or reading disability. But it can also affect writing, spelling, and even speaking. Typically, students who have the disability struggle with connecting letters to sounds, decoding text, recognizing sight words, reading fluency, and understanding the text. More than 2 million students ages 3 to 21 have learning disabilities. A vast majority of students have trouble with reading. In fact, the term dyslexia is often used to mean disabilities with reading. As more and more schools are starting to see their students have a problem, states decide to have certain laws about how to go about teaching students with a disability. The president signed the READ Act to support finding, and now there are tips and guides to help students with disability. Each state is different when it comes to teaching and talking about dyslexia in their schools. In some states, the dyslexia law is the same, but it differs in the majority of them. The dyslexia law addresses more common issues actually found tied to the disability. The law covers the defining of dyslexia and other conditions that affect language learning, early screening and identification of students with dyslexia in grades K to 3, training and professional development for current teachers so they'll understand how to teach children with dyslexia, and funding for the programs. In the states that do have dyslexia laws, parents have often supported the efforts to pass those laws. Since the passing of the READ Act, teachers and parents have had better hopes for their students to help that they need. In February of 2016, President Obama signed the READ Act. The act gives a funding boost to research on dyslexia and other specific learning disabilities. READ is short for Research Excellence and Enhancements for Dyslexia. The law directs the National Science Foundation to spend at least $5 million every year on research on specific learning disabilities, and at least $2.5 million of that money most focus on dyslexia. The goals that the President and millions of schools wanted to achieve with this new act were to identify dyslexia at an early age in the student's life, to have proper dyslexia training for teachers, and to better the curriculum and tools for children with dyslexia. As Jerry Tucker quoted in the article, "I have great expectations for this bill," says Rep. Lamar Smith, who helped introduce the bill in Congress last year. "We want to help young students who have dyslexia achieve absolutely all that they have the potential to achieve." In schools today, teachers and students are getting the proper training and tutoring they need to succeed in schools. Teachers are learning the private reading instruction can provide big benefits for kids with dyslexia. They are learning to be patient with their student, and they need to accommodate the student in the classroom as well, and not just outside of the class. While in a classroom environment, the teacher should give step-by-step instructions, whether it be written or said out loud. They should always repeat the directions, review the lesson plans and skills daily, and try to use small group teaching. As a teacher, there should be a certain supplies that the students can use to help them along in the classroom, such as audiobooks, visuals around the room, and large print text on posters, assignments, or text. A student that has dyslexia, for them, it would be a different experience for them in the classroom, but just as important to learn, just like it was for the teacher. For a student that has an assignment and test in class, it may be beneficial to help and use a text reader and to prepare in advance. When outside of the classroom, having a tutor will be a life changer. It takes specific skills and teaches kids with dyslexia to read. Tutors with skills often call themselves reading specialists or educational therapists. Children with dyslexia learn to read best with a specific type of reading instruction. Some instructors might use letter titles or sandpaper letters to help kids build words and feel the shape of the letters. Some programs also focus on teaching kids to use different arm movements and make commonly confused letters like P, B, and D. It will also be helpful for students to learn certain tips and guiding them through assignments or tests, such as bringing in visual elements to prepare for short answer tests in advance, or in reading notes aloud, and possibly joining a study group. Patience is key when learning new things, but it will be possible for students to improve. Schools may have not noticed a struggle on their schools before, but in the past 2 years, new laws have been made, acts have been signed, and students and teachers are improving in classrooms. Dyslexia may be a disability, but it will never be able to stop children from achieving greatness in schools. As Steven Spielberg once said, "It is more common than you can imagine. You are not alone, and while you will have this for the rest of your life, you can dart between the raindrops and get where you want to go, and it will not hold you back."